Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson, with got a few extra props this evening there, Coach Jackson?
I'm going to show you my inner Dave Doran. You know, a couple years ago, he had a cigar and a red Solo cup after his Wolfpack beat the Tigers. Well, guess what, Dave? What goes around comes around, big boy.
Goes around, comes around. We have a great show this evening. We're going to talk about week 4 of college football, and it was week 2 of tailgating at Clemson University. We'll definitely bring the heat and bring up the heat, and it is time to kick off homecoming week, and we're going to talk about the relevant games, or the fun fan type relevant information from yesterday's games. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and on all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans.
And don't forget about Reuben's Food, Sports, Spirits, and Catering, the best wings around, with 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. You can find them at ReubensC.com. Reubens is simply a great place to eat for all sports fans.
Fun Fans Podcast is also brought to you by Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services. At Ivy O'Sullivan, they are more than just chiropractors. Since 1977, this family-owned business located in downtown Spartanburg has been helping people with techniques other than the typical twisting and popping that can sometimes make people nervous about trying a chiropractor. I've been a patient my entire life, and I take my own children there as well. If you have an ache or pain, give Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare a try. And if you mention the Fun Fans Podcast, they will donate 100% of your initial evaluation cost to their charity of the month. So call them at 864-583-3967 or find them at ivyosullivan.com to feel better and function at your best. All right, Coach Jackson. So a couple of things first. Number one priority, we got our space back. If you watch the show, there was an issue with IPTAS double booking a couple of the spaces on Centennial Extension, but the Fun Fan space on the corner right by Perimeter Road has been secured.
And we are working the corner, ladies and gentlemen.
We are working the corner. Yesterday was a good tailgate. We actually ended up right across the street from some of our podcasting peers and some of our other media peers from Clemson Sports Network, and also at the tailgate, some of the friends that we've made through the Orange and White Gala that we've attended recently, including former Fun Fan guest and country music sensation Lee Newton. So that was pretty good to be close to those folks again. Now everybody, at least those folks, know where we are every home Saturday. We had a couple other visitors. Our friend Perry came by, brought his son Liam that we thought was in the 7th grade, but he's in the 9th grade.
Yeah, and Perry also brought chicken from Chick-fil-A. So that was very important.
Chicken
good
nuggets.
Call, Perry. Way to go, Perry.
Yes. Very good call on the tailgate there. So, and it was so the weather was a minor issue, I guess, for I didn't notice anything as far as the players during the game or anything like that, but we were prepared for it to get hot. It's a typical September, not cloudy day in Clemson. And when that sun was baking, it was hot. But the morning tailgate, the one thing about we talk about the 12 o'clock kickoff at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, it was very pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, it really was nice in the parking lot. It was not even that bad in the parking lot later under the tent. However, inside of Memorial Stadium, it was hot.
That's right.
But you know what? It wasn't too hot to whoop up on the Wolfpack and my big pal Dave Doran.
Right. Clemson's offense was hot, and so was the weather. And like Bailey said, even afterwards, when we went back out there, it was warm. But once you got in the shade, and there was a little bit of a breeze, it wasn't that bad. So when we went back out at halftime, and then after we left, of course, the air conditioner was working just fine at Reuben's in Powdersville, and that patty melt I had for dinner for Den. That was pretty good. So
I hope it was as good as you talked about it for like a week. So
yeah,
I hope it was good.
It was very good. So the tailgate was a great day. Great tailgate. Good fun. Good friends. And the game was pretty good. So just so we a couple of pointers, a couple things to point out about the Clemson game. Number one thing is that the University of Georgia's defense still hasn't given up a touchdown.
That's because they didn't play anybody yesterday.
Correct, but still, they still haven't given up a touchdown. Speaking of touchdown, Clemson scored early and often. So what were your? I mean, and other than I told you so. Because I heard that enough yesterday.
I didn't say I told you so. I said I told you.
Told me. That's right. And he did. And we did. I agreed. We agreed. So, but what are they doing? What's different? Nothing. The opponent is NC State that bad?
Compare the
I'm not comparing
to Georgia.
Well, you have to. I mean, you have to compare a little bit.
Right. And people go, well, you're running different plays. I'm going to go back when I'm completely bored out of my mind and have 5 hours of the day.
Yeah.
And I want to see the plays that were run against Georgia. They just look different sometimes when they're run against other people. Okay.
This is true. This is true.
Yes, did they a sense of urgency is always you tell players all the time, you tell folks, we got to play with urgency. I don't care what the score is. I don't care what the records are. And I don't care if it's the first game or the last game, but and I know that sometimes when you get your back against the wall, you come out swinging a little bit harder than you would just going through the regular everyday getting ready for the first game of the year, which that should have been urgency. But
yes,
sometimes it takes getting slapped across the top of the head to wake up.
Yes, this is true. Another theory I have is our new coordinator last year, we expected him to come, and we live in a microwave society and we expect things to change just like that. And sometimes in situations like this, they do. But to really, if we know anything about Dabo, he's patient. He's probably more patient than most other coaches at any level. And if you look at what happened last year, when we beat Notre Dame, it was I think we're just getting our groove. And then this year, it's the second year with the coordinator, but it's a new team. And you know that. You know how it is year to year. No matter how many you bring back, it's a new team. We brought back a lot of receivers that were injured last year, even though they were on the team. So I think the offense just needed a couple of games it's almost like they needed that like a preseason. It was almost like a preseason. And we went up against Georgia, the best team in the country, or at least one of, and just see what happened. And we went up against App State, which is somebody we knew we could probably, beat, regardless. And then we had a break and we got it together. So it's just kind of a settling into the new system, my opinion. But hey, it don't matter what did it. They look good against NC State. NC State still has athletes. They're just not having a great year, I guess. I mean, they were out there playing. It looked like all they always do is just there wasn't a whole lot they could do to stop what the Clemson offense was.
And if you go back and look at TCU when Riley was there, we're now putting up numbers like they put up.
Correct.
Okay?
And that's kind of what I mean. For him to come in,
I really think when you play, I would have to go back and watch this to be absolutely certain. But like when Clemson was really, really good a couple years ago, and you get pressure with your front four, and you can drop the other seven. So if you're getting pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run with your front four, you can drop 7, and it makes throwing the ball very difficult.
Right.
But see, the teams we've played the last 2 games cannot do that. Plus,
correct,
we're better than them. So I think Clemson, I think if you look at the top 5 or 6 teams in the country, I'm not going to be naive and say Clemson's the best team in the country. Mm-mm. They're not in the top 6, but they're in the next 6.
I agree.
I completely believe that with all my heart. And and if you remember, we're talking about one half of football, not an entire game. One half. is when they got Georgia ran away with it. The first half was pretty even.
Correct.
So everybody, all these shirts, run the ball, use the portal. It's just ridiculous.
There's the more you win, the more people quit. The more people get off your back about that kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
But it was a great game for Clemson fans, that's for sure. It was definitely hot enough to appreciate the score where we could stay under the tent or head on to the air conditioning. And next week we take on Stanford. Did you watch any of their game? Stanford looked okay. They went to Syracuse and got a dub this weekend.
Well, if they went to Syracuse on a Friday night and got a win, they'll be okay. And California's not bad either.
That's right.
So they were saying how bad those teams were, but they're really, I don't know if Florida State, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but my gosh, that game was hard to watch last night. But
agreed.
Hey, Stanford, bring it on over. Come on back to the East Coast. You're going to be playing outside this time in Death Valley. It's not going to be whatever wireless dome.
That's right. Not only outside, it might not be the best weather in the world for sure, but we look forward to hosting Stanford. That's one of the things I've talked about just as a fan. Anybody been to a Clemson-Stanford game before? If you remember, we played them in the Gator Bowl. I think I was in high school or something.
Yeah.
And it's just, other than that, it's just kind of neat to go against teams that you don't normally play. So look forward to homecoming no matter who we play. So it is definitely homecoming. Woo! 7 p.m. kickoff, the floats and the pomp and the circumstance. Hey, it's homecoming at Clever High School as well, right?
That's correct.
So what a coincidence. So if we were planning for this week, all the kids are going to stay up late and put the tissue in the stuff. But we're going to do what we do with a 7 o'clock kickoff. We did talk about, we do a little bit of tailgate planning. This is the segment of the show. We talk about our little tailgate plan. We talk about arriving a little earlier than normal since it's homecoming. So normally for a 7 o'clock kickoff, we would get there about 3 or 3:30, but we might do about 1 or so. Is that what we said?
Yeah.
So that'd be fun. So we got some family that wants to walk around. Maybe some of the kids want to go see the floats and run to their friends. My oldest used to have friends that are students when they were students, obviously, just like Bailey, and still might have 1 or 2. And now our youngest, Bailey, have friends that are over there as students because they're getting old as well. And so I'm just gonna throw this out there for the menu for homecoming. Since it is homecoming, it's just something is one of the things, just laying on your heart. Just wanted to go back to my roots as far as the menu and just go for some KFC chicken.
Okay.
Bailey's not hard to please, which is great. You know what else that we're going to need if we're going to go early?
Gonna need some energy.
We're going to need some energy. When you need your energy, go to w.gg, enter promo code FUNFANS for 10% off your jitterless energy drink. Okay, so Bailey said we'd talk a little bit about it. So we're going to talk about some of the other games, and not really the games or some games, some events, but, this is a little different podcast. Y'all can listen to all those other shows that are going to talk about, Michigan and whoever they played and blah, 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 and all that stuff. We're going to talk about the fun stuff that's more fun to talk about. I don't think there were any big surprises as far as wins and losses or who beat who over the weekend. Do you, Bailey? At least in the top 25?
Not in the top 25, but Michigan only had like 34 passing yards.
That was something. So that's different.
And they won.
And that we'll talk about a game that's not in the top 25 that was probably somewhat of a surprise. All right. So Colorado scored. Did you watch the end of the Colorado game or see the highlights?
I fell asleep. You saw my picture. I had 3 TVs going. I'm doing research for the podcast, and I was wanting to watch the end of that, but I just couldn't pull it off.
So I woke up when they were in overtime, and I saw the highlight later on how they ended up in overtime. So Colorado Hail Mary, boom, touchdown, ties it up, sends it to overtime, and then they win it in overtime. So that's exciting and all. And I don't know if you've been an influence on me or what. There was something different when the fans rushed the field, and I'm gonna ride both sides of the fence right here. Okay, I'm just gonna do it. It was great. I mean, based on how they won that game, and it was against Baylor, and the history, the recent history of Colorado football, to get a win over Baylor and a win like that. I mean, that's big for those fans, and they're out on the field and they're having a great time, and that's just great. But I ain't gonna lie, we talked about this before. It was a little bit scary. Those that particular team, you got Deion Sanders, you got Deion's son, you got the Travis Hunter that they say is probably going to, unless he gets hurt, he's probably going to win the Heisman, probably going to be the first pick in the NFL draft. And those kids, the fans, you could tell there were plenty of them that just wanted to, they just want to touch them or pat them on the shoulder or whatever. But they had to escort a lot of those players surrounded by security folks off that field, or they would have been, they would have got jumped all over.
It's a real situation.
Yeah.
At every level.
Yeah.
Fans should not be on the field.
I don't know if that's the first time. That was definitely one of the times that I'm sitting there watching it, and they kept the camera on it. I thought, well, they're keeping the camera on this because they're getting the same vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, keep recording. Just
hopefully,
in case something happens.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen. So, and as far as I know, nothing happened. So that was good. But listen, people in charge, be careful. If you're going out on the field, be careful. Don't, you got to control yourself. And I know it's hard to control tens of thousands of people. Speaking of being hard to control, this is from ESPN.com. TCU coach Sonny Dykes was ejected from the Horned Frogs' 66-42 loss to rival SMU on Saturday, new ACC, after earning consecutive unsportsmanlike conduct penalties in the third quarter. Dykes became the first head coach of a Power 4 program to be disqualified from a college football game for multiple unsportsmanlike conduct penalties since the NCAA established the rule in 2016. So he's making history, first of all. And my understanding was like a holding penalty. Obviously, they're not doing very good. But
it was on a kick return, I think.
That's and from what he said afterwards, he understood why he got the first one, but I guess he thought he had reeled himself in or whatever. He was surprised to get that second one. And so, what do you do as a head coach? Or there's nothing you can do but eat crow after that, I guess.
Yeah. It's not a great feeling because you immediately have the regret.
Right.
But if he doesn't feel like it was warranted, then I think there would be a conversation between him and at least the coordinator of officials. Find out what I said. What was the final straw? Tell me so I don't do it again. Right.
That was definitely not a fun experience for him and probably the rest of his team. And they went on to lose by 24 points, gave up 66 points. Okay. All right. So we've already talked about one overtime game. So one thing that's kind of the theme here, there seem to be a good many overtime games, which is good. That's good for the fan. It's good football watching. And there were a lot of points scored. Mizzou takes over as you talk about rankings. And I know it's early. This season has a little vibe to it. It's weird. We're about 30% of the way through the season, but it's still hard to get a feel for a lot of teams. I think Missouri's up there in the top, whatever. I think they fell in the AP poll after beating Vanderbilt, but they had to go to overtime to beat Vanderbilt. And really, Vanderbilt missed a field goal in regulation, and at the end of the game in overtime is what gave Missouri the win. So what do we make of Missouri there, Coach?
I think Missouri's in the same group of teams as Clemson.
Agreed. Yeah. I think,
really, Boston College could have beat them last week, and Vanderbilt could have beat them yesterday.
Yep.
So,
and both of those are on their own home turf. So, I think
right, and their head coach is he was at App State for a year, and from what I understand, for people that I know on the inside of that, he was not very liked, and he is kind of a jerk. So, after they won, he just threw his head. He just took his headset off and threw it like, somebody get this. Come on, man. Hand it to your guy.
Something seems to be going on there. So might be once they start slipping, you never know what can happen there. But yeah, I think they're number 6 at any point in time. When they were number 6, that was probably at least a little bit of an over rating for sure. Right. Speaking of the over, if anybody took the over, I'm assuming on the North Carolina James Madison game, they would have been a winner because I'm not sure, but I'm kind of guessing that it was the over-under was not 120 or more.
I promise you, it was not 120. I mean, I've seen some high over-unders, but not 120. And
So,
a big UNC fan plays in our golf group, and I said, how you going to score 50 and get beat by 20?
It's unreal. You're talking about the wheels falling off. What in the world's going on in Chapel Hill?
Just one game.
That's just one game.
Mac Brown said, well, if you're not going to listen, maybe I'll just quit now.
Yeah. One way or another, but that is that was something else. That is definitely a score. Not just the fact that North Carolina lost by 20, but to give up 70 is kind of crazy. I don't. Somebody else, maybe Bailey, when he has all that extra time he's talking about, can do the research. But I think this weekend had to be possibly a record-setting weekend for points scored. I mean, we've already talked about games where even the losers scored 50 or more. So it was just.
Well, I'm going to tell you what game wasn't. Florida State and California.
Florida State and Cal. Well, did you watch that? How much of that one did you watch?
I watched about all of that one.
It was hard. It's very difficult.
It was like, why am I watching this? Like, I wanted to go, why can't you just turn it off? It was a field goal fest forever. And Cal had an opportunity, should have won the game, probably could have won the game.
Could have won the game, right?
Because I'm hoping, of course, I'm sitting there going, I hope Florida State's 0-4 and has to go on the road to SMU next week.
Mm.
They're not good.
They're not
very good.
They're not very good. Something's definitely not clicking down there at Florida State. They had a 3-0 California team, but their 3 wins were against, I think Florida State may have been the first.
Well, they beat Auburn last week.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
But Auburn's struggling as well. But so California is kind of okay, good, at least, I guess. But you're right. You just watched that game and you could okay, neither one of these teams really want to win this game. It just didn't look good at all. So
I might have been hoping for a weather delay or something so I could turn it off.
Yeah, but I will say this, though, and because I'm trying to, and I give people the benefit of the doubt, including DJ. And I said this when the season started. If a switch ever flips for him, whatever it is, because he's definitely got the talent, he's got the arm, and 50% of his throws are great. But the receivers are too surprised when he makes a good throw. So even half of those don't get end up interceptions.
He threw some good passes.
He did. I mean, he always does.
And I mean, it's the same guy that set a record at Notre Dame as a Clemson backup quarterback when Lawrence was out.
Right. So if he ever just somehow gets his head right or arm right or feet right or all together right, they might be a good team again. But really their defense, they have trouble stopping the run. They just don't look good. I'm sorry. They just don't.
Yeah, I mean that could all be different in a couple of weeks, but let's hope not.
Let's hope not. At least wait till after October, whenever it is that we play them. 5th. All right. Last point of discussion for the games this weekend from the fun fans and the high school administrators. There were some good games Friday night. Good college games. One was in Lincoln, Nebraska. Okay. The Cornhuskers took on the Illini, right? Illinois, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I heard on the radio that the high schools in Lincoln moved all their games to Thursday because of that game on Friday, and so people could go and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we've kind of talked about that before here on the Fun Fans podcast with athletic director Coach Bailey Jackson. Would that ever happen in South Carolina?
No. Clemson and Carolina will never play on Friday night, and if they do, they're going to get the Football Coaches Association has a lot of members.
Right.
And they have made it clear to Clemson and South Carolina that we do not want you to play on Friday night. And because then you give people the choice, do I go to a high school game or do I go to a college game?
So to answer the question, just for people that don't know, why moving it to Thursday wouldn't be a viable potential solution. What happens when you move your high school games to Thursday night?
If you move all the let's hypothetically speaking,
Yeah.
we move all the varsity games to Thursday night. That means you got to move all the 9th grade and JV games to Wednesday night, which is the night most middle schools play football. So you'd have to move them, because if you don't move them, you do not have officials to cover all of them.
That's correct. And what about your gate on a Thursday night compared to Friday night?
It's probably 40% of a normal gate.
Yeah, so less than half. And that money, most people know the football money provides for all sports in high school athletics for sure.
Yeah, and it honestly, I mean, I know the exact number. People don't understand what it costs to host a football game.
Right.
The cost initially is over $4,000, at least at the 5A level. At least that's a minimum.
So you may not even make any money some places if they didn't have a good gate on a Thursday night. And not to mention all the bumping back. I mean, we ran into a situation, honestly, recently where they bumped because of weather or something. And we had something get canceled. I had a tennis match just get canceled because one team had too many girls going to church.
Right.
So we try to avoid Wednesday night for a lot of reasons. And that just messes everything up. So they said it on the show I was listening to, like it was a great thing. And maybe out in Lincoln, Nebraska, it is a great thing. But that we don't see that ever happening here in South Carolina. And there's reasons for that. So anyway, just another tidbit of what happened this weekend and some things that you'll hear on the Fun Fans podcast and not necessarily anywhere else. We're kind of running short on time. I'm going to skip to Mike Norvell's quote, some events from this past week in college football. Did you see this quote where he says, if you had faced 3 powerhouse programs to start your season, your team would be 0-3 also?
Yeah, and I didn't say it, but I always, Mike, I always include Georgia Tech and Boston College in my powerhouse discussions.
Yeah, and Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Memphis Tigers, let's see, who got beat by Navy this past Saturday. So there's that. All right, so anyway, very good. All right, skipping around a little bit. Couple of the important things that happened this weekend. Clemson volleyball played their first match in a brand new Jervey gym. If you hadn't seen the pictures, go to Clemson Athletics social media, find Clemson volleyball social media, see those pictures. Really, really nice gym in there for the volleyball team. Unfortunately, they lost to the Gamecocks, so, but at least they got into their new gym. Bailey, do we have an O's update? Do we want an O's update?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's they are going to make the playoffs, and as no team that has won a division and received the bye in the first round of the playoffs has won a World Series since they started doing it. So it's better just to keep on rolling.
There you go.
But they've been injured all year, and they're getting a few guys healthy now, and it really sets up for what I would like to see as an exciting postseason.
Well, it could be, I'm going to say, the opposite of last year when they were just rolling into the postseason and they got beaten the first series, right?
Yeah, Texas is the same way. They've played the last 9 games, 6 of them have been against Detroit. Detroit has the best record in baseball over the last month. So they're trying to fight into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's you can't. Baltimore's 5 starters at the beginning of the year. There's only one that's still the same guy.
Oh, really?
The rest of them are out. So it is what it is.
Well, it's like you said, they go in with that adversity helps you bond and learn more and play harder. And like you were saying earlier about having your back up against the wall. So hopefully this year will be a different story when they make it to the playoffs. All right. So quick, we're going to make this announcement every week. We appreciate our partners at WSBN TV for teaming up with us to bring sports fans across the upstate of South Carolina a new show, Southeast High School Highlights. We've got 4 schools that we partner with, and we get on here with some athletes that are non-football athletes, and we highlight those kids. We spotlight those students and their accomplishments. So join us every Wednesday at 8 p.m. right here in the same stream and same place that you can find the Fun Fans podcast. And if you know someone affiliated with one of those schools, please share that information with them. So we appreciate our partners at WSBN helping make that possible. So that's a great show. Bailey, got anything else?
No, I would just, my public service announcement is to let the coaches coach and the players play and let the fans be fans.
Yeah.
Your X and O opinion from the bleachers does not matter to anyone except you.
One more puff on the cigar, maybe.
And this is for Dave Dorn again. Hate you, Dave.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. It is homecoming week, so we look forward to maybe seeing some old friends. If they come back, hey, we are working the corner. If you went to school with me and Bailey back in the day, come on by the tailgate anytime after about 1, 2 o'clock Saturday. We'll be at the corner of Centennial Extension and Perimeter Road. Homecoming week's always a great week. It'll be another great week of college football for us to talk about next Sunday. Don't forget about our Southeast High School Highlight Show every Wednesday. Thanks again for checking us out each and every Sunday. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media, and please share. Reach out to become a sponsor. On behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, Jay Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson.
Go Tigers.
Thanks for listening.